side so the dirt just can't fall out. And that way, A, it helps with drainage. If you do overwater, the water not only can go down, it can go out on the sides, but it also lets the oxygen get through to the roots better. You get side airflow as well as top airflow. And we did tests at work with that where we made little boxes and drilled one of them and didn't drill another. Put the same dirt in there, the same fertilizer, the same plant out of the same 6-pack, and watered it and let them grow. And actually the one with the holes drilled in it grew to be about 15 to 20% bigger.
Wow.
So you're not just suggesting worms or...
Right.
Well, worms are great. They help aerate. Actually, I'm kind of lucky. My son's about to turn 3, and his new big thing is worm hunting.
So it could be
And
depleted a little
every
bit.
night, actually, when I left tonight, he was crying that I had to go back to work because he wanted to go out and go worm hunting. It's every day, but I've got him trained to where he'll dig up, find the worms. He won't touch them. He makes me pick them up, put it on a shovel, and then he goes over and he'll put them in the garden. And he names them and makes little families. Yeah, no, worms are another good thing to help aerate the soil. You could get them naturally out of the ground, or Peaceful Valley Farm Supply sells them by the pound.
Ian, how far apart are your holes?
They're kind of random. I didn't really get that scientific with it. I just took a drill. I think I did mine with an 1¼ bit and just kind of just zigzagged around so the whole thing can get airflow.
A foot apart or 6 inches?
Probably 8 to 10 inches. And one thing I've noticed too, because
8 to 10 inches what, from the top? Is that what you...
just the holes apart.
From,
I got them up, down, zigzagging all over the place. And one thing I've noticed too is, because I just did this last year, this year with my winter garden, it actually helped with my winter garden, because in December when we had those like 20 inches of rain in 3 days or something ridiculous, you know, the year before when I didn't do that, I'd come out and the whole top of my bed's white because all the perlite floated and it's flowing down through my lawn. And it also, in the heavy rain, it helped it drain out better too, so kind of helped keep the soil more mixed. But that is, you know, like I said, we do a lot of tests with Nevada County Farm Supply as far as what's in our soils. But as important as that, we test the physical characteristics of the soils. And it's about every 3 to 4 weeks or so we'll go out. And because sometimes, you know, we buy bulk material from as far away as Canada. I mean, we get stuff from all over the United States. And sometimes things change a little bit. You know, okay, a batch of humus might be a little heavier than another, or the sandy loam we get from the valley might have a little more clay content. So we're constantly fine-tuning our formulas throughout the year, keeping the same basics with it. But we always go out and do a drainage test, make sure it's not going to crust. You know, fill your bucket, tap it, water it. The water will always drain through the first time, and then we do our moisture test, and after 4 or 5 days when it dries, we go back, water it again to make sure the water's not pooling on top, that it's still soaking in. Yeah.
I have a question. When you talk about getting the sandy soil from the valley, do you do any weed testing?
No, and one of the most common questions I get on the phone during the summer is, do you guys sell certified weed-free compost? Do you sell certified weed-free this? It's anything that's certified weed-free, as soon as it gets out and it gets in the air, with everything blowing in the air, it can no longer be considered certified weed-free. So basically anything in bulk, I mean, we do the best we can. We keep everything tarped in the winter to make sure it doesn't get too muddy to where it's usable. When things slow down in summer, we cover our piles. We make sure that we don't have our bunkers full all the time so weed seeds can't collect on them. But, you know, you can be out there and the wind blows, and then next thing you see, all the little white floaty things falling off the trees from, you know, McDonald's down the street or something like that. Unfortunately, there's no way to control that.
and we have animals rampant that are doing their job.
And where's the deer?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, because the piles are warm this time of year. When the deer are starting to come back up the hill, we can come in every morning, you can see where the deer were bedding in the compost piles and humus, because it's nice and warm.
And Ron, where do you get your wood product?
From a lot of different places. One thing that we use a lot of, because it really helps control the pH in the soil, is redwood sawdust. So that comes from the redwoods. We get different treated humuses, which aren't organic, from Cloverdale. Our organic compost, because we do sell certified organic compost, really what I do every year, there's 6 or 7 people we get it from, and every year I get an analysis from them all, because basically for them to be certified, what they have to do, and it's a very expensive process, so they do it in huge quantities, generally 15, 20, 25,000 yards at a time. So they do these huge batches, they get their certification sheets from it, they get their lab readout, and then they send that to me, and then I go to all the different places and basically inspect piles, see which ones are screening the best. If they got white spots in it, it'll let you know that it very well is going anaerobic, which you want to stay away from. I mean, we haul it as far away as Vacaville. So, Marysville, Lincoln, Vacaville, Chico, pretty much all over the place. So it's.
Mercy.
No, I don't. You'll have to tell me. I don't know when it was. No, I can't say I'm familiar with that.
She's tomorrow?
So it pretty much comes from all over the place.
Oh, I didn't
and
see her
we
trailer in her driveway.
do the best, because one thing that we do is we're very, very strict on quality control. And I'll tell you this, we're not necessarily going to be the cheapest. We don't try to be the cheapest. But I could also tell you this, at $106.50 an hour for trucking, I have people pay us to drive all the way down to the Bay Area to deliver soils to them. Wow. I mean, sometimes we'll have people buy $400 or $500 worth of soils, and they'll have $500 or $600 worth of deliveries in.
Because yours either bagged or you bring loads and you can't go there and shovel up an amount, or how do you work that? I know that one of your competitors stopped that, where one could go over with a container and do their own.
We have people do that all day long.
Okay.
Garbage bags, trash. My favorite thing is there's a dentist in Colfax that he swears by mushroom compost, which, being organic gardeners, it's the worst thing basically for when it's so chemically filled, unless you could actually find a certified organic mushroom farm, but generally they don't have it in large quantities and it's hard to get. But when you buy it from like Monterey Mushroom and stuff like that, I mean, we sell it because everybody buys it.
Because people want it.
Because people want it.
Not that it's the best thing.
Yeah, and our,
Okay, can you explain that? I have my grocer guy, when I go to the grocery store, he swears that he gets the best tomatoes because of his mushroom.
oh, you will, but it's just not, if you're trying to do completely strict organic gardening,
Okay,
it's,
so it's not, okay.
they use a very, the big commercial places use a very high content of urea in it, which is a chemical man-made form of nitrogen.
Oh.
But there's a dentist in town, and yeah, we'll let anybody fill anything. We'll even go out and help you fill them. We don't stand there and watch it unless we're completely busy. But this dentist has a 4Runner, and every spring he comes in, fills 3 garbage cans with mushroom compost during his lunch, puts it in his 4Runner when it's 90 degrees outside, goes to work for 4 or 5 more hours before he goes home. I hope he leaves his windows cracked at least, because everybody knows what that smells like, and it's pretty bad.
You might want to explain the difference between the sand you're selling as opposed to going to Home Depot and buying that sand, which are 2 different kinds of sand. I'm aware, but I don't know if everyone else is.
As as far as like buying the Home Depot bag sand.
Yeah, I mean, which is basically for playgrounds or for whatever reason, it's not the same as.
Yeah, the big difference between it is even though our sands up here, and I've actually done, had an agronomist run tests on our sands, you still get a certain amount of what I would call the silt side of soils. If you're looking at the silt sand clay spectrum, which, believe it or not, in moderation is very good for soils. It's very high in the trace mineral side of it. When you go to Home Depot and you buy bag sands and stuff like that, a lot of it comes from the beaches, which is also could be good because, I mean, like all the fertilizers I use in my garden are all ocean-based. You know, kelp, fish bone, I feed with liquid seaweed, stuff like that. But they're not pulling from the actual beach where the water is. You know, they're taking it up top. Then they wash it again, then they kiln dry it, which at 1200 degrees or whatever it is they cook it at, cooks out a lot of those trace minerals and nutrients.
I thought the difference is the way it's cut. One's round and one's more
That's-
square. The round water's just going to rush right straight through. The square is going to be.
It compacts more. It works. That's another thing too, and it depends really on how much you use. But it will. It's angular, so it'll lock in. Plants actually like it. Roots like aggregation. They like it when they grow. They like feeling that grittiness. That's why sandy loam soil is so desirable. But if you get too much content in it,
Why would I want sand in my garden? Can you?
Drainage.
Did I miss
Melon.
something?
Certain things grow. Melon,
yeah.
Right?
Help the soil
Melons.
like that texture and the grip.
depends on what you're growing.
Yeah,
You
it's-
don't want it all the way throughout. It depends on if you're, like, you got a little melon pile.
Or depending on your soil, if you want to loosen it up.
Aeration.
The roots can work through.
So I want it in my soil?
Right.
You want that, your roots are gonna go.
Okay.
It's not nutrient dense. It's not good for everything, right?
No, it's not actually used as like a feeding for the plant. It's more for the tilth, the texture of it. They like to feel the grittiness.
So if I just, if I don't have a large garden, I'm very minimal. If I just, want the tomatoes and the peppers and the
Then don't buy
cucumbers.
sand.
So I don't need, this is not something I would
Most
be
of the
interested
time when people use sand, they're using it when they're actually doing in-ground rows, planting in the soil.
In-ground. Okay.
I mean, some people do use it in raised beds, but a lot of people, when they're doing raised beds, since they're using a soilless medium that's going to have the peat moss, which is also angular, the roots like the feeling of that, the perlite, stuff like that, that stuff gives it enough aggregation to be happy. Like, we make a mix, and actually, it's what Bear River High School used when they redid their football field, and you use it at stuff like that. We actually call it a seed and sod mix. It's designed for an underlayment underneath your lawn, and it has a very high sand content in it.
Okay.
Just for the fact that for what they're doing, they need something that's going to compact so you don't get the wavies in it as the stuff settles over time, but it'll still hold moisture and be able to drain at the same time.
Not much.
So, but does the sand stay over a period of years, like if you buy the soil mix? So would you have to re-add compost, like to raise beds?
Yes.
And how often would you recommend that?
That really depends on how much it settles. I recommend top dressing or re-amending every year. And I'm not gonna lie, I work for the company, I get a pretty good price, so I kind of have the top of the line stuff in my garden. Stuff I used that I make special for myself would probably cost about $200 a yard to buy. Most people aren't gonna buy that for their raised beds.
Oh, when's dinner then?
I'll share my harvest. Like I said, it's not a big harvest. I don't have a big bed, but so I get a lot of decomposition and settling over the year. So really, it just depends. You should always add a couple inches of something. Organic compost with worm castings. We have a product called Topper that's really good. And actually, they're in the process of getting it certified organic. And you guys might have seen it. It's made by Kellogg's. You can buy it all over the place. It's yellow bags, and it says Topper on it. It's 50% organic composted chicken manure, and all the chicken manure they use is aged at least 2 years. It's the only chicken manure I'll use, and you can't even tell it's in there, and then 50% humus. And we got an exclusive
What?
for them to sell it in bulk.
And the chicken
50% human.
organic?
Yeah, they're actually, like I said,
Humus.
they're doing,
No.
they're going through the process right now to actually have it on their certified.
And so much that.
Humans.
We have it in bulk. Yeah, we got an exclusive to have it in bulk, and it's
cut off.
about a third of the price of buying in bags.
I'm out. I'm out. Jeez.
That really bothers me is the wood chips. There's just so many and they're too large.
You know, we go through probably 700 or 800 yards of a year, and I'm not saying they're in there, but I've probably never seen anything bigger than 3/8 of an inch.
In this topper product she's talking about,
Yeah.
those wood chips?
I'm sorry, taking a step back to the chicken manure,
Sure.
2 years old, in the compost, you wouldn't use anything less than 2 years old?
I'm not, a lot of people use chicken manure. I'm personally not a fan of it. We don't sell it. A lot of the trucking companies that we deal with won't even haul it in their trucks, just for the fact that if you had one chicken that went bad and had diseases, it could contaminate that whole 40-yard load you're getting.
Okay. I have chickens, and I have the rice hay that they put in their coop, and months ago, I decided to put some of their dried up manure in my compost bin.
If you're,
It's fine, you're not a
Yeah,
factory
no,
farm
if-
when the chickens are chock-a-block.
I don't know,
Everything.
thank
totally
you.
different.
Okay.
Patients get disease.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we're
Well, you know, we're
also,
talking
we're,
like
Okay.
100,000 chickens in a box.
yeah, we're
Okay,
Foster
that's a
Farms,
whole
pumps
different-
them so
yeah.
full of
That's
hormones and
a-
steroids to
Right.
get them from this
But
big to
that's
this
not-
big in 2 weeks.
It's the difference
That's the
between
type of problem. Yeah, if you're growing your own chicken,
store bought. No.
Just about.
Read
Yeah.
Paul Salzberg's book.
Actually, I do my own little course.
I'll shut up, I promise.
I have trees or everything are on my back deck. I put back there. I have like 6 foot trees. How often do you have to change the soil in the? I have them all like 20-inch pots.
That's a good question.
I do the fertilizing and I do all that, but
Every year you need to pick them out and look at the roots.
every year.
it-
How do you keep from damaging the tree? Then you have to cut the pot off.
Well,
You can't.
yes, every year you need to pick them out.
yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of truth to that. If,
But not now, they're, when they're dormant. maybe?
yeah, you'd want to do that
Yeah.
after probably November, December-ish. Because when you do that, they're going to go into shock, and it's going to take them a couple months to go back. And if you shock them right before they're supposed to start flowering or
They are
leafing,
flowering now.
so yeah, you don't want to do it now. But
Yeah, and they're all,
I have a question on pH. You said redwood chips have a neutral pH?
no, not a neutral. They have a lower pH.
But it's slightly low, not deeply acid.
It's
Yeah, because I was under the impression that all of the conifers were deeply acid.
the pH on redwood is generally between 4 and 4.5, so it is very
Oh, it is,
acidic.
okay.
But when you add it to something like an organic compost or mushroom compost or different other things that have a pH of 7.5 to 8, it just helps. We use it to balance it to be able to bring the pH down in the soils that we sell.
Okay.
Another reason too is anytime you feed with organic fertilizers actually raise the pH in the soils.
Right.
So,
I remember hearing that. Thank you.
yep.
okay,